What up, people? It's your boy, Master Chudy, out here with another video. So this just came to me at the heat of the moment. Eternals has released. This is the fourth. This is the third film. Let's say that the third film in the Phase 4 of the MCU. And after everything like that, after everything with the pandemic and everything, it finally released. I know this isn't a review of Eternals, but it's more or less a observation of what's currently happening with the MCU. Now, we all know how 2019 was for the MCU. Endgame came out, huge event. People may have its trepidations. I personally liked the film, and it felt like, and was written like, more or less the end of 11 years of films. Like, great way to end it. But of course, we can assume that the people wanted more, so to speak, and Marvel couldn't just resist, and so they began Phase 4, moving into that. And so a whole bunch of TV shows and new movies were put into place. And save for the unfortunate snags with the death of Chadwick Boseman, rest in peace to that man, great actor as always. The MCU Phase 4 looked to be in prime condition to change some things, but then the pandemic came and slowed it down. And even then, people were still thinking, Phase 4 is probably going to still be good. But from what I've seen, I believe that Phase 4 is just highlighting what should have been done with Phase 3. You end the MCU there and then, and you would have had the greatest cinematic run probably in modern history. Nothing beating it. I say this because Eternals is showing that Marvel has made mistakes with its product. It's embraced the formula. It's focused on the snazzy, splashy new director to go ahead and direct films that they have no business directing. They've embraced making a point and making a good story. And I think that goes a long way in affecting how people will see these films. Now, I'm not saying that the MCU had classic films per se, though you can argue Infinity War will definitely be a classic film moving forward. But the MCU Phase 4 has definitely shown that there will be no classic films. You will not get anything to the extent of an Infinity War. It will no longer be good. The idea being that you've done all that you could do in phases 1 to 3. You had no chance of expanding when you were killing off your villains in all these movies left and right to even think about the future. And so now Marvel is going to see how can we recapture the lightning in the bottle. There is no more Iron Man. Captain Rogers is old. Thor is no longer going to necessarily even be part of the Avengers. He's with the Guardians now, and even they are getting ready to break up, regardless of the introduction of Adam Warlock. It's just an absolute mess when you think about it. Getting away from the storyline, you're just getting away from how the MCU timeline is going to work. You get into the storyline. You have that, you know, not just the storyline. I mean, how you construct a story. You can see with what happened with Black Widow, an origin story that would have been, well, yeah, a film on Black Widow that would have been good. Having her more involved, the shenanigans that took place with it, the gender swap of Taskmaster, the Red Guardian not being used, the story not making any sense, and everything like that, all to just pump out a film because you think it'll hit the audience's needs. And we saw the failure that it was. Same thing with Shang-Chi. While Shang-Chi was definitely better than Black Widow, no doubt, and it was, competently made, I'll say, it makes you wonder what could have been had you kept Iron Man alive and you put the Mandarin in Iron Man 3. Could have had a lot of things done, and instead, the Mandarin could have been a great player. But like Phase 4, like Phase with Phases 1, 2, and 3, the MCU in Phase 4 continues murking its villains, trying to build up to a big bad that nobody knows really yet. You're not letting these films breathe on their own. You're killing off their villains. And essentially, I don't see a Shang-Chi sequel making any sense moving forward. But that's just me. And then you get to Eternals, a film that contradicts much of its lore, a film that goes in thinking that we have styles and aesthetics that will mask the substance of what needs to make a good film. And this might be the first instance the where the audience, at least from what I'm hearing, not on Rotten Tomatoes and the critics, may be of one mind where this film is really Marvel production at its worst. And it shows the fundamental issue here that the MCU Phase 4 is broken. As I mentioned before, you're hiring directors for who have no business directing films that they have no experience in. Chloe Zhao should not be directing a multi-million-dollar superhero film. That is not her forte. And in the film, people will notice that it shows. Granted, you wanted Eternals to be something, but these are, if you look at Jack Kirby's creations, they're vibrant. They're meant to be bright. They're meant to be otherworldly. These are the new gods of Marvel. And yet you would think that there's something else, that they're a different film. But here we are. It takes people out, and that's why they come off as dull. And anything created by Jack Kirby, whether it be the Eternals or the New Gods, are not meant to be dull. But here we are with them. You hire actors and actresses to make a point instead of hiring them to see whether they can bring the characters you want to be created to life. None of these characters seem to necessarily. Let me not say none. Most of these characters seem to take these roles as a job or a platform to do things. When initially your job as an actor or actress is to bring life to these characters. And moving forward, I don't think anybody is going to remember these characters. I don't think anybody can say my favorite Eternal was this person, my favorite Eternal was that person. And it's a issue that's coming about with all of these Phase 4 films. When I said that when most actors usually take these on as things, there are some actors who did it. The actor for Red Guardian and Black Widow, he wanted to really make this character something, but the studio said, "Nah, we're nixing it." Florence Pugh tried with her Elena. Granted, there are some issues, but that's one. Um, Natasha's mother was kind of there. The villain was terrible. Taskmaster is done. You've got no iconic characters coming out of that film except for one, Shang-Chi. To be quite honest, the best part of that film was the villain. You killed him off. You can't do anything more. Shang-Chi is kind of meh. Aquafina is Aquafina now. And nobody. Shang-Chi's sister just turned out to be an allegory, and she wasn't even cool. She was, in fact, one of the weakest parts of the film. No iconic characters come from that. You had a lot of Captain Phasma type of characters in Shang-Chi that could have been something. But here we are. And I know I'm rambling a bit, but the point I want to make is that I believe that Phase 4 is indicative of the terrible filmmaking of Marvel. Marvel is Phase 4 moving forward is getting broken. And yes, they'll be raking in the millions, but as we're seeing, and yes, some of it may be exacerbated because of the pandemic, but these films are no longer events. The magic is gone. The steam seems to be running out, and Marvel it will most likely be running on fumes. The MCU has bought its own hype and formula, and for good reason. It's made them quite a lot of money. But you will not see an Infinity War Endgame type of event where people are packed and ready to see these films like they were in 2018 and 19. Moving forward, because you've lost a lot of your star power, no Robert Downey Jr., Chadwick Boseman, God rest his soul again, has passed away. Scarlett Johansson ain't coming back, especially after what happened with the lawsuit. Chris Evans, who knows? May or may not. Uh, I'm telling you, Ruffalo is not charismatic. I don't know what's happening with Chris Hemsworth. Um, Brie Larson's Captain Marvel has lost a lot of hype. No, you don't see anybody talking about that. But the point is that you know the idea of trying to build something through good story, a good film, is always supposed to make you want to come back for more. It's always you're invested in the story. You want to see where the story is taking place. You want to be excited. You want to be wowed. And because Marvel has bought into their formula, we all have an idea of what to expect. We all have an idea of what's coming. And it usually ain't that good. Or we're no longer excited. We know what's going to happen. And with that, more or less, I believe that Phase 4 is broken and it's on collision course to not do well. I don't know. Blade will be PG-13. Spider-Man Into the Multiverse will do well because it's Spider-Man. It's Spider-Man. So, and they had to mind you, they're bringing back in the villains that were not influenced by Tony Stark from the OG trilogy, and maybe some from the Mark Webb duo films in there to add some spice and excitement. Other than that, Spider-Man, which is supposed to be something which could have been the driver of Phase 4, is not exciting anymore because you've introduced a formula and you've made Spider-Man not a master of his own fate. Everything is tied, ironically, to phases 1, 2, and 3 concerning Spider-Man. So he's rudderless. So Marvel's in an interesting predicament. Well, it may not lose money, but nobody's going to be excited for these films, and that's going to play an interesting role in its future. So, I just want to get that rant off my chest. Just thought it just came to my mind in the midst of this Eternals weekend. So, thank you all for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe, and hit the notifications to make sure you're notified. Once again, I do these videos for you, the people, because I want to discuss what's happening in the entertainment and the nerd culture and see what you all think. Once again, thank you for liking. Please comment below, and I hope to have more videos up when I can. Peace.